Everybody, we're going to do notes. So if you could get your mice hands free and look up here, that would be awesome. And we're going to get through this very quickly. If statements are great, but sometimes you want to make a more nuanced decision, whether you want to do one thing or another thing in a single step. And to do this, we use an if-else statement. And here is one. If condition, then we do one thing, else we do the other thing. So this is a little simpler than having to write two separate if commands like we just did in the warm-up. And you're guaranteed to get one of these outputs. It's going to do one or the other. That's a nice thing also. You don't think, oh, what if I got through this without triggering? Well, it's either the first thing or by golly, it's going to do the second thing. Only one or the other of the blocks will run. It's either or. And you use braces to stay organized like I did here, or you can skip braces if there's only one command in any particular group. And you can use braces on the if and not on the else, or the other way around. But right here, I'm showing you just what I showed you, but without the braces, which is fine. It's a good idea to use braces by default because lots of times you write all the code and then you're like, oh yeah, I also have to do something else at that spot. And you add the second line of the other thing and then whoops, there are no braces and then the whole thing's just gone to hell. So, okay, we're going to try it out. I'm going to pause the video. Look at the next thing. All right. Whoa, big surprise. Section 3.4. If, else statements. So sometimes you have more than two things you want to trigger. And an easy way to handle this is an if, else structure. You can, to do this, you're going to have one if and then as many else ifs as you want. Literally, you could have 20 or just one. And then optionally, you can have an else at the end. You don't have to, but the else is something that will execute if none of the other things execute it. And that's subtle, because if you just had an if and an else if, and the thing that you were looking for didn't trigger one of those two things, then nothing would happen. But having an else guarantees that one of your things will run for sure. But you have to have an if statement. You can have zero or as many else if statements, and then you may or may not want an else. So here's an example. Int temp equals a valid number. You don't have to worry how it gets there. Probably a scanner. If temp is greater than 90, we're going to say it's hot. Else if temp greater than 80, it's getting hot. Else if temp greater than 70, it's pretty comfortable. Else it's not hot at all. Now, only one of these blocks will trigger, because you might be thinking, oh, if I did 100, it would trigger all of them. But it just, the first one it finds, it does that one. It doesn't consider any of them. There's only one way out of this thing. Questions? Yes.
So if it was 100, it would only trigger the top one?
Yep.
Or would
Yep.
It trigger the
Nope.
biggest number?
It would just trigger the first one it found that was true.
So if you had 80 of it would
Oh yeah. Yeah. In fact, I did this so that I didn't have to worry. Like I did it in order, so it would do, so it would kind of act correctly. If I put 70 up top, then anything over 70 would say it's pretty comfortable, even if it was 1,000 degrees, and then it wouldn't trigger the 90 down below, unless you could do compound statements that would make it be contained. But we're going to learn that next week. If you don't have an else at the end, your program could go through all the code without triggering anything. So look at this one. If temp greater than 90, it's hot. Else if temp greater than 80, it's getting hot. So if the temp was 79, nothing would print, which is fine. Maybe that's what you want. Just wanted to. The else, though, the idea of the else is it catches everything else. I guess I asked a question, but I didn't give you a chance to answer it. For what temperatures will nothing print? Anything 80 or less. This code, none of this nothing will print. It's fine. Maybe you didn't want to print anything. So just like the other ones, you can use braces or not. You can use them like this top group. You can use them like this middle group. Say put the open brace on the if line and the closed brace on the end of the next line. And you could also do it without braces as long as there's just one line of your code. This code has a problem, and I'd like to ask you to try to figure out what happens when the temperature variable is equal to 90. So don't say it out loud. Just everyone try to figure out what gets printed when the temperature is 90. Anybody want to say what prints? Raise your hand. Jacob. Pardon? It's getting hot. But it's also going to say I can take off my sweater. Because even though those lines are both indented, only the "it's pretty comfortable" is part of the if statement. That last line is going to run in every time. So even if temperature was 100, it'd say it's hot, I can take off my sweater, which is a true statement. Maybe I should change this to say I'm going to put on my sweater. But the point is, this is set up to trick you. I put these two lines indented, so you're thinking, oh, those are part of the else statement. Only the first line is part of the else because there are not braces around it. So what's going to print is it's getting hot, I can take off my sweater. The last line always prints in this code because it's not part of the if else, it's just sitting there. The indents don't make any difference. So here's the code fixed so that it only prints the sweater line if it's pretty comfortable. I just added braces around these things. Matthew. If I did what?
If you did a plus sign like you would on like the return strings that we practice with, would that make that statement like printing them all in the same line? So like if you did system out println and then it's pretty comfortable plus system out println and my sweater off.
Oh. No. You'd have to do. I mean, you wouldn't do another print, but you could put it in here, like that.
Yeah.
Or you could do \n. I can take my sweater off, and then just all in one line. Yeah. You don't need to have it be two lines. I just did to trick you. They're gonna trick you though. I scare because I care. This code has been updated to include a test for a lower bound, and the else serves as a catch-all. So let's see. If temp is greater than 90, it's hot. Greater than 80, it's getting hot. Less than 75, put on a sweater. Now the else is between 75 and 80. It's pretty comfortable. I mean, you don't have to have an else, but this is an example of using one. All right. We're done with new material. Here's what's up. We've got a practice 2 REPL, which is short and sweet. And then we have, or not too short and sweet, but it's there. And then I'm having you write a number guessing game. If you were in my beginning class last year or ever, you've written that program in Python. So you're going to have a random number stored, and then you're going to ask the user to guess, and you have to report too high, too low, or just right. And we'll have a little loop. And I set up the loop for you because I know I haven't taught you loops yet. And then we have a method. I'm going to have you write a fifth REPL for the day called. Actually, I think I'm doing front back same on Monday, so I'm going to take that off. But then we do have AP Classroom. I want you to do, and not B. I want you to do A on the College Board website. This is Unit 2 practice problems. The numbers here are completely irrelevant. I'm going to stop the recording.